Hello, everybody. I hope you are all well. Before everybody went off and left school because we had to sort of stay at home, I did promise that if I could, I would read one of Roald Dahl's fantastic stories. And I can now do that, particularly as I know we won't be going back to school for another 2 or 3 weeks. So I had a look at my box of Roald Dahl stories, and we had the BFG and Matilda and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. There's so many good stories. But the one I thought I would do, because we don't do it very often, is James and the Giant Peach, which is a really good story, and it's a bit different, I think, to some of Roald Dahl's other stories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one chapter at a time. So some of the chapters are quite short, others a bit longer. So I'll do one chapter at a time and then post that on the site. And then the next day or a day or so later, we'll do the next one. And we can then, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we can work our way through James and the Giant Peach. So I have my book here, and you will see that it says the world's #1 storyteller, which I think probably means Roald Dahl rather than me. Perhaps I'm the world's #1 story reader, but certainly the world's #1 storyteller, I think we would all agree, is probably Roald Dahl. So this is chapter 1 of James and the Giant Peach. And in the front page, hopefully you can just about see that it shows the key characters, the key players, if you like, in our story. And you can see up at the top there, James Henry Trotter. And that is obviously the James of the story. And opposite him, the horrible Aunt Spiker and Aunt Sponge. Not nice people, as we will come to find out. And then under that, some really interesting animal characters. There's the old green grasshopper sitting in his very comfortable chair. There's the centipede, who seems to have hundreds and hundreds of shoes on because he's got so many legs and feet. So there's a thought. I wonder how many feet a centipede has. We'll probably find that out later on as the story goes on. Lower down there is Miss Spider, and there is the silkworm, not to be confused with right in the bottom middle there is the glowworm. And then down in the corner there's the very long, thin earthworm with his sunglasses on because he doesn't like too much light because he lives underground, doesn't he, all the time? And he's got a hat on to keep the sun off his head. And there is the lovely ladybird. So those are the key characters that we will meet in the story. Okay, so this is chapter 1. Until he was 4 years old, James Henry Trotter had a happy life. He lived peacefully with his mother and his father in a beautiful house beside the sea. There were always plenty of other children for him to play with, and there was the sandy beach for him to run on and the ocean to paddle in. It was the perfect life for a small boy. Or for a small girl, come to that. I think it's just a perfect life for any children, isn't it? And then one day, James' mother and father went to London to do some shopping. And there a terrible thing happened. Both of them suddenly got eaten up in full daylight and on a crowded street by an enormous, angry rhinoceros, which had escaped from the London Zoo. Well, I'd never heard of people being eaten by a rhinoceros before. Now, this, as you can well imagine, was a rather nasty experience for two such gentle parents. In the long run, it was even nastier for poor old James than it was for them. Their trouble was all over in a jiffy. They were dead and gone. 35 seconds, boom, gone. Poor James, on the other hand, was still very much out, and all at once he found himself alone and frightened in a vast, unfriendly world. The lovely house by the seaside had to be sold immediately, and the little boy, carrying nothing but a small suitcase containing a pair of pyjamas and a toothbrush, was sent away to live with his two aunts. Have you noticed that's one of the things about Roald Dahl stories? They always seem to have children who start off with a very sad and lonely life, but they always end up happy and doing something really exciting at the end. And I think we'll find that's what happens with James. His aunts, their names were Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker, and I'm sorry to say they were both really horrible people. They were selfish and lazy and cruel, and right from the beginning they started beating poor James for almost no reason at all. They never called him by his real name, but always referred to him as "you disgusting little beast," or "you filthy nuisance," or "you miserable creature." And they certainly never gave him any toys to play with or any picture books to look at. His room was as bare and empty as being in prison. We don't like them, do we? They're not a nice thing to say to people. They lived, Aunt Sponge, Aunt Spiker, and now James as well, in a queer, ramshackle house. Ramshackle means all sort of falling down and untidy. On the top of a high hill in the south of England. The hill was so high that from almost anywhere in the garden, James could look down and see for miles and miles across a marvellous landscape of woods and fields. And on a very clear day, if he looked in the right direction, he could see a tiny grey dot far away on the horizon, which was the house he used to live in with his mum and dad. And just beyond that, so quite a long way away, but he could see it, was the ocean. He could see the sea, a long thin streak of blackish blue, like a line of ink beneath the rim of the sky. But James was never allowed to go down off the top of that hill. Neither Aunt Sponge nor Aunt Spiker could ever be bothered to take him out herself, not even for a small walk or a picnic. And he certainly wasn't permitted to go alone. "The nasty little beast will only get into mischief if he goes out of the garden," Aunt Spiker had said. And terrible punishments were promised him, such as being locked up in the cellar with rats for a week, if he even so much as dared to climb over the fence. I don't know if there really was a cellar with rats, but it's the sort of thing they just threatened him with. I don't think we like the aunts, do we? The garden, which covered the whole of the top of the hill, was large and desolate, and the only tree in the entire place, apart from a clump of dirty old bushes at the far end, was an ancient peach tree that never gave any peaches. And you can get trees, that's where peaches come from. In the same way as apples come off apple trees and pears come off pear trees, peaches come off peach trees. But they don't often grow in this country because they need to be quite warm. There was no swing, there was no seesaw, there was no sandpit, and worst of all, there were no other children ever invited to come up the hill to play with James. There wasn't so much as a dog or a cat to keep him company. As time went on, he became sadder and sadder and more lonely, and he used to spend hours every day standing at the bottom of the garden, gazing wistfully at the lovely but forbidden world, that means he can't go there, of woods and fields and ocean that was spread out below him like a magic carpet. Now that sounds quite a sad start to a story, doesn't it? But we know Roald Dahl stories just get better as they go on. They get better and better, and they get more and more exciting. And I can tell you that that is what's going to be happening with James and the Giant Peach. So I will try and read chapter 2 tomorrow and hope to see you then. Be happy. Goodbye.